am working on an 8 by 10 piece of Luxe Archival. I just wanted to show you the way I've taped it. My clips won't reach. So whenever I have to tape, I always tape parallel to the side of the paper. I never do it across like this, because if you rip that when you're taking it off, you've taken off a big chunk of the corner. And also, putting your tape this way leaves a big place that you didn't cover that will not go under the mat. So this is just, I've tried to do this. I kind of got out of control right here, but I've tried to do this so that that white part will be covered up by the mat. And then this is an 8 by 10 sheet of paper, so it's really even more important that I draw my little line around it to mark where the frame is going to go. So it's the smaller your paper, the more important it is to compose to the area of your paper that's really going to show. And so when I look at this, I see that, okay, the field is 1, 2, 3. The field is about a quarter of the way down, so it's going to be sort of like this. I've got this big old thingy right here, big old thingy commonly known as a hay bale. I've got another one over here somewhere, just past the middle of my picture. And then there's another one way back here that's actually closer to this one than that one. And then I've got this little hill of trees. Oh, everything seems so tiny because the paper is so tiny. And then here's this first line of the hills. Somebody asked me if this was a picture of Rhode Island. I was like, no, this is not Rhode Island. This would be Vermont. And there's a little field back there too. I actually used Photoshop and took out a lot of farm equipment that I didn't want in the picture. So, and then this actually might help me get that one more in the right place. This paper is very hard to erase on, like if not impossible, see? So if you're really doing a complex drawing, you'd probably have to do it on tracing paper and then move it over, trace it, pounce it, which is a lot of steps. I don't really like going through so many steps. All right, and so here's our mountains back here. All I can say is that it's really important to look at the mountains when you're drawing them. Draw them like a contour drawing. And then, you know, the mountains, they kind of loom large in our minds, but they're not really all that big, at least here in Vermont. They're pretty small, so just be careful that you don't end up with the Himalayas in the Vermont countryside. And I don't need to have this drawing of the mountains perfect right now because it's just going to get messed up anyway when I start the color. So I just want to get some idea of where they are. And I find mountains incredibly hard to draw, and it doesn't seem like they should be. They make a nice, really clear contour against the sky, but it's just something to do with how big they seem in our minds, I think. And then here's this first layer of really dark clouds coming across. And just to the inside, so I'm comparing things one to the other, like comparing the sky to this to see where I need to put it. And this is just about dead center. And then that's up a little higher, but you see, so the last demonstration I was trying to do of the farmer's daughter, that would have been really hard to do on this paper because the drawing was so complicated. And I always like to have everything help me to be able to deal with as many mistakes as possible. Okay, and so then the other thing I'm doing today is I'm working with it's a brand new set of Rembrandt pastels that somebody gave me. So I have about 180 colors here, 150 colors, I guess. And not any of them. None of them are broken up. So I'm going to have to break everything I want to use, so that hopefully won't take me too much time. But someone suggested that I use a set of pastels that was more like what my students have. But I also should say that I do think that, you know, when you've been painting, after you've been painting a while, it's really worth it to have some more expensive pastels. But this is kind of a good experiment too, because I really think that if you're using very expensive sanded paper like this, and this paper is kind of expensive, I can't remember how much it was, but I bought a tiny little box and it was $200 worth of paper, and it came in this tiny little box, so that was a little shocking. But when you work on expensive paper, you can maybe use less expensive pastels. Although I just would not go any cheaper than Rembrandt. So I've been having this thing about green in the sky lately, so I just doing it. So when I start my color, I just, you know, almost every color has got some of everything in it anyway. So I don't know, it just seems like, okay, why not just kind of just try some stuff. All right, so that's the start of my clouds. And then I'm going to put in the sky, the blue of the sky. So when you're painting clouds, you have three things. You have the sky. So this is the sky. And we have some sky down here too. Oh, and a few little sky holes in here. So you have the sky, and then you have the clouds in shadow and the clouds in light. And one thing I think that's hard for people to kind of get a grip on here is that the clouds are, you're seeing the bottom of the clouds and the front plane of the clouds. That's really all you ever see unless you're flying. And we hardly ever see things. I mean, we see the sky all the time looking up, but in our daily life, I kind of think we probably spend much more time looking down. So we're not used to seeing underneath things. And what that means is that the bottom edges of the clouds are the furthest away from you. So if you're going to practice clouds, it's a really great thing to go outside and practice clouds. And just, this is actually going pretty quick here, breaking these off because I'm not actually unwrapping them. To go out and do just quick studies of clouds where you don't really have much land, and especially on a paper like this that covers so quickly and completely, this would be a good thing for doing cloud studies. And then it's also, you know, not a bad plan to work on clouds indoors from photographs, because then everything's staying still and you have a little more time to study the anatomy of the clouds. And I don't know if it helps to know the kinds of clouds and things. I've read a few books on clouds, but honestly, I don't really remember much about it. But there are, you know, clouds have specific forms and shapes depending on the kind of cloud they are. So I don't know, maybe that'd be good. And then on the clouds, you have light, half light, and shadow. So you want the deepest, I mean, in this case, the deepest colors are underneath the clouds. And then your side planes are in shadow. And then the sun is coming from the right-hand side of the picture. Is that true? No, the sun must be kind of just right above, somewhere right up here, because these are the most brilliantly lit up clouds and everything else is looking a little. And then the other thing about clouds is that the sky is receding away from you. It's not a flat sheet that's just, you know, behind what you're doing. It's going away, and it's going away from you, just like the land is going away, the sky is going away. The sky is going from the top down away from you, and the land goes from the bottom up away from you. So What that means is that the higher clouds in the picture are closer to you. So right here's a funny case, right here, that little thing. That cloud is on top of this cloud behind. But that is not usually the case. Usually the clouds on top are in front of the clouds that are lower. But in this case, there's some places here where that's not true. And I'm using white right now. So I started my color really strong, way stronger than I ever intended for it to end up. And then I can always come back and dull it down. White is a dulling color. It's you could consider it your lightest gray or maybe your lightest blue, but it will definitely dull things down. And it is my lightest color, so I don't really want to use it first. I want to be sure that I get all the colors in that I want to have before I switch over to the white, because the white, there's sort of nowhere else to go from white. White is your brightest color. Okay, so I just let my clouds get a little light, so that's okay. I just can come back. And do you see how many layers? I always think I'm going to count, but I'm sorry, I just can't count the layers. But how many colors I've used up here. And yet I still have quite a bit of tooth, and that's what I like about this paper. I feel like maybe I'm going to not have to spray as much using this paper. So this right here is the furthest away edge of the cloud. This is closer to me. This, and then coming up, those are closer to me. So this is the back edge of the cloud right here. And as the clouds get closer to the horizon, there won't be as much value contrast. So things will get smaller because they're further away. The colors will get more similar because they're further away. So the lightest lights won't be as light, and the darkest darks won't be as dark. All right, so if I was painting outside, I would try to finish the sky before I moved on, but I'm indoors, so I don't have to do that. So the next thing I usually do is I do whatever's closest to the sky. And I feel like that color is very similar to this blue that I have up here. Although this blue seems a little less intense right there. So I just put a little purple in that. All right, and so this far hill is, I think I'm going to start it with this color. And I'm working with the flat side of my pastel. I've broken these. These are brand new, so I've broken them into my favorite size, which is about 1/2 inch. And I keep working with the flat side of the pastel until maybe I've gotten to a point where I don't want to completely obliterate what I've already done, but more I want to add color to it. So that, let's just try this on that hill, this little purple. Okay, so that seems a little better. And then the next row, I'm going to start the next row with that same blue. Okay, and that seems, I feel like that's got a little purple too, so I'll try a little bit of that slightly darker purple in it. Right, Purple Mountains Majesties. Okay, and then the next one is starting to look a little green to me, so I'm going to try kind of a warm green. I would say it looks a little bit warmer green. And in this row, I have a little feeling of light and dark. So this is going to be the light side of my trees here. And then oh, maybe this is one. All right, so now I think I'm going to do the hay bales next, because I want to be sure I don't like use really bright orange on the field and then not be able to make my hay bales stand out. So I'm going to try, definitely going to use orange. So when I made this, I took this photograph, but then I did manipulate it. So this hay bale here is actually just a copy of this hay bale. So, you know, and it's not very far back, but I may need to just kind of fake it to make it just a little less intense than the front hay bale, but I'm not going to do that yet. And back here, this hay bale really was all the way back here. So it's a little bit not quite so, and it's turned the other way, so it's not quite so bright. God, I haven't worked this little lately. Oh, I kind of like that. I honestly can't even tell what color the hay bales are in the front. They are just so dark. So, you know, you have to interpret what you see, and you just cannot copy. So maybe this is, you know, the shadow on the hay bales, just, it looks black in the picture. And that's the thing. Things look black in a picture, whereas they don't usually look that black when you're outside. So that's kind of interpreting it. And then far away back there, there's a little more. Oh, and I kind of made that row of the trees too big, so that's okay. I can make, it looks like there's maybe a row of corn back there. So let's just see if I could do the corn. And one thing I like about it is that it's at a slightly different angle. It's not quite so parallel. Oh, and I left out that little field far away. Golly, what's that going to be? So my color's a little more washed out here in the distance. And so I make that a little darker, but then we'll see. And I bet this needs to be just a little bit lighter. It looks a little pink to me. I'm just going to try some pink. Oh, kind of like that. Sometimes you get to keep stuff you like, and sometimes just because you like it isn't good enough. So we'll have to wait and see. The other thing is warm colors come forward. I mean, I just hate making rules, but that's pretty close to a rule. The warmer colors will come forward and cooler colors will recede. But it all just varies, and it all depends, because you could have a cool orange, but that would be much warmer than a cool blue. So some colors are only warm or cool really compared to other colors. So more than anything, you want to train your eye to look and see what you see, and then exaggerate what you see, except for using black, which you just don't want to use black because it'll just mess up your painting so badly. So if you can just try to stay out of the black. when I was teaching and I had control of the pastel sets at school, I always took all the blacks out because I don't know, people, and when we used to paint murals too, we really quickly realized murals with the public, where the public were part of it. We always took the black. We never left black paint out for people to use. And after a while, we quit letting people use red either, because they would just use too much red and too much black and just take the life out of the painting. Grown-ups, kids, everybody, it was. All right, that's got to be darker, and that's not dark enough. I need something. It is a little bit of a problem in pastels, the whole dark situation. There aren't really great darks, but, and I haven't used it at all yet here, but there is that one dark I really love. It's the number 508.3, and now there's also a 0.2, and that's the Prussian blue. Surely I do have that here. Yeah, here it is, 508.3. So this right here is my darkest dark. Well, and it is not that dark. That one was better, that dark purple. So actually I'll use this back there. The nice thing about this Prussian blue is when it's sprayed, it just really gets dark. And so I use my fixative. I use my fixative to help me get my darks dark enough. All right, and I sort of lost my little shadow there. It's tiny, tiny. But just because the shadow is tiny doesn't mean it's not important. All right, so now I've got this pink grass. Well, I'll just go over the dried grass part too. And I am making an effort to come up to my edges, which I don't always do in the beginning of my painting, because this white really bugs me. All right, so obviously I can't keep that pink, but I'll just use a green right away. I don't know. I don't want to go too light with the green, even though it is really light. So I'm just going to try. I'm going to try this one, but I didn't know how well it was going to work. So one of the jobs of the artist is to show people what they can't see on their own. So I don't know how many people would look at the grass and say, oh, that grass is really pink. But your job is to show them something they can't see. And then it seems like it's a little cloudier over there in the distance, so that might be kind of try to do that a little bit. Okay. Try you. So rather than make it darker back there, I'm thinking of making it lighter. And this seems like a place right in here that's catching a little light. So what are the differences between light and dark? On a sunny day, outdoors, generally speaking, the lights are warm and the shadows are cool. And that's because the sun is a warm color and the shadows are lit up by the sky, which is a cool color. So just, relatively speaking. So if you want stuff to look like sunshine, well, let's put it another way. If your painting doesn't look sunny enough, then what you could do is add some yellow to your lights. And if your painting doesn't look cloudy, the shadows don't seem, well, let's see, God, what am I trying to say? So on a sunny day, the lights are more yellow and the shadows are more blue. But another thing is, obviously, lights are lighter and shadows are darker. But if you're a guy like Monet, you make most of your light and shadow. So that I got a little too light there, but I just wanted to see if you're a guy like Monet, you're making your light and shadow with color changes, not so much value changes. But I like both. I like to have really strong value contrast. I see that as a really important part of a sunny day. And then I also like to have the color change from warm to cool. And then another thing about shadows is that you can't see as much detail in the shadows as you can in the lights. And that's because you can't see as well in the dark. So those three things, on a sunny day, if you can make your lights a little bit warmer than your shadows have contrast with your lights. So darker shadows, lighter lights. And then show me less detail in the shadows. Oil painters do that by doing what they load their lights. They use a lot of paint in the light, and they actually, create texture. And then those textures catch their own highlights and make things look more lit up. And they keep their darks smoother and thinner so that you don't have those things that look like highlights in your dark paint. And here it would just be, using more, using more of a stroke in the light and less stroke in the shadow. But that doesn't mean you can just leave your shadows flat, because on a sunny day like this, a lot of skylight is coming into your shadows. So you want to be sure that, now I also kind of moved some things around to create these little lines of hay, of straw, but I just want to be sure I don't let them, I want to keep them kind of parallel. Not parallel because they're in perspective, but I don't want to let them get too out of whack here, because there are times that it really helps to know how the world actually works. In terms of color, I sort of don't want to know. I don't want to have preconceived ideas, but in terms of perspective and drawing, well, you kind of need some preconceived ideas. Okay, so I got it all covered. So that's my first time over. Now I could redraw, but I also don't really feel like I need to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is come back and work right in here, and I'm going to try to put in some variation so that doesn't just look like flat. And the way I put in variation is to put in some value contrast. So that's really the way to make detail, is to, well, it's one way to make detail. I can't think of others right now, but I bet there are some. So what I'm trying to do is put in some value contrast that will make this start to look like there's more going on there than just a sort of a flat sky. And I'm gonna use pink. There's a little warmth to it. So here's just a good example, is that pink is a little bit of a cooler warm than yellow. So I could try using pink back here in the distance. And then honestly, white is a cooler color than pink. So maybe I should use some white. Maybe I'll use white right at the horizon. So the horizon is the furthest part away from you of the sky. It's way back there, behind the mountains, everything. And now would be a good time maybe actually to try to get the mountains drawn a little better. And you can do either thing you want. You can come back and use your charcoal. And I'm just trying to do a contour drawing. And one thing that'll help you is if you kind of keep looking and see, like that little V there, I thought it was quite a bit further over, but it's more lined up with the hay bale. So that might give me more room for this long slope. And then this starts somewhere before that hay bale. Wow, see, I'm so far off. Isn't that incredible? Okay. So that's going to be a little shorter. One time I did this painting. It was a commission, and it was a super long view. And the guy, I don't know if this is a cautionary tale or what, but oh my God, I just went home with the guy. You know, he asked me if I'd come paint his house, and I just went home with him, but it was all fine. But the cautionary tale was that he wanted me to do an oil painting, and I said, well, maybe I'll do a pastel. And I had this paper that was 24 by 36, so I did the pastel, and he was kind of an impulsive guy, and he just bought that right off the easel, and I went with him to get it framed in Stowe. And so I don't know, maybe I should never have, I don't know, I did make some money, I had a good time, but I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have even showed him my study. But okay, but the real point of this story is that there was a fence across the front, and I was able to use the fence posts to figure out exactly where the mountains went, because it was Mount Mansfield in Stowe. It was a beautiful Stowe, you know, vista. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want it to not look like the Stowe Mountains, because he was going to hang it up. He was going to hang it up over the fireplace so his friends, when they came in the winter to ski, could see what it looked like in the summer. But that fence, using that fence to help me get the mountains, it really was amazing. It worked so well. Okay, so that's a little field too, lined up maybe with this field. And then as you're painting, you're picking and choosing. Each person that looked at this would, you know, see it a different way. That's the real beauty of it. That even if you're in a class of people doing the same scene, it's just everybody is so individual. All right, I think my trees need to be darker. I'm just going to do that now because I just feel like they're not quite dark enough. Well, that was not much darker. It was more like what the light on the trees should be, I think. All right, can we find something dark enough? Well, this might be. If you just can't tell what a color is, you can always check the number. And so this was a 0.3 color. So I knew it was the darkest in that range of colors. Sometimes they look a lot darker than they are sitting in your box. And then also it might be that I don't have the mountains light enough back there, so I'm going to try that next. And this is one of my favorite blues too. This is Ultramarine Deep, and this is about the middle value. This is the number 6. Kind of a periwinkle. And it's a color I use up all the time. So I need to be able to replace it. I need to be able to go in and know what I'm looking for to replace it. Until you really know your colors quite well. So that is something I gotta say, that I know what my colors are gonna look like generally when I use them. So that's an advantage. But the disadvantage is that I think I know what they're going to look like. So if I just always reach for the same colors, what am I learning about what I'm doing? And so for me, the purpose of painting is just to keep learning stuff. And also, golly, it's good therapy, right? It's not quite sailing, but it is pretty captivating. It's kind of hard to think about too much else while you're painting. And if you are thinking about too much else, well, then your painting kind of suffers. So it just, just having a blank mind, just kind of going in there while you're painting. And it seems like I don't have that because I'm talking to you and it seems like I'm thinking. But when I'm really painting and I'm all alone, I just kind of have that white noise going. And one thing I do to help promote the white noise or the distracting myself from thinking is I really like to listen to books while I paint. Yeah, just not quite. I'm going to try a darker blue, I think. Let's see if this is darker in those. I don't really like the way that feels. Oh, maybe I'll try this. It's kind of nice with these guys they're all in order. They won't be for long, but right now they are. So even for me, it's easy to forget that I could use something else besides green. Okay, and then I need the front of the cornfield. So the front of the cornfield is a vertical plane that's facing me, so it's in the shadow because the light is out here behind me somewhere. Okay, and here I'm just gonna bring the cornfield in front. I'm just naming it to help you to see where I'm working, but generally speaking, names of things don't help you. Naming things just kind of leads to preconceptions. God, that sounded, what the hell did that even mean? Right, it's that thing in Tao. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So just because you know the name of something, when you know the name of something like, oh, that's a sunflower, in a weird way, you quit looking at it so much. So you quit seeing it because you've created a name for it. So what you're really painting is shapes, values, colors. You're not painting stuff. No, not dark enough. And I have found the minute I start thinking things like, oh my God, I can't make this apple red enough. I don't know, it leads to trouble for me. So I try not to think about names. Try to paint things that don't have names. Like, what is the name of that weird shape? Like, well, it doesn't have a name. So one other good thing about that is if it doesn't have a name, then your mind can't tell you that you can't do it. Like when you're trying to do a hand or something and your mind says, oh my God, hands. Hands are the hardest thing for artists. Oh, only the best artists can do good hands. You know, but if you could somehow break that down into like, okay, now I'm doing this weird little shape that's sort of hard edged, and now I'm going to do this weird little shape that's a little softer edge and not quite as dark. That's why, you know, people draw like that drawing on the right side of the brain, why she has you draw upside down so you can't name the things you're drawing. You know, that part of your brain that's all analytical and stuff, it just thinks that oh, I've got the name, now I'm done. And then the left side of your brain, which is, oh no, the right side of your brain, which is less analytical and more just creative and stuff, it like, so here I just feel all these shapes, I'm letting all these shapes get a little too, something about the shape of my pastel is I'm letting all these shapes get a little too, yeah, and see this one is not really on top. So just knock that down a little. And I could spray, I probably should spray it right now. It's starting to get a little, I'll come back over this and then I'll spray it. My big hope with this paper is that I can quit spraying. Not because I don't like the effect of the spray, but it, you know, it just can't be good for you. And I always spray outside, but you know, a lot of times I'm kind of in the moment, and I'm thinking about what I'm gonna paint next, and I don't pay enough attention, and next thing you know, you've inhaled a big thing of spray. And someday soon, it's only been 4 years, but someday soon, I'm going to actually look and try to find my respirator. And if I can't find it, I'm just going to buy one. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.